Come on, let's do this right now. We're gonna develop our archive feature wherein we have the ability to make a system or make an email into an archive wherein it does not show in the mail inbox but it's put in another place wherein all archive datas are gonna be in that directory or place. So how we're gonna do that, let's first check our mailbox variable. Take note that mailbox is categorized into these buttons, namely as inbox or sent or archive. We need to make sure that this is not sent, the sent variable, because when you do, it's no use archiving sent emails, like just in real world example. So we're gonna make this into sent. The mailbox must not be sent. Then on, we will execute our logic. So first, we're gonna create dynamically an element of button. What's this? This toggles between whether archive or unarchive button. Let's put this inside the variable we're gonna call archive btn. Let's put the text email. If the email archive, what's email archive? When we click this link, this has a property of archive. So it must be archive. It shows as false. This must be true. So every time that the archive is true button, we show archive. Archive, right? Archive. Archive this. Else, if this is false, we must unarchive. Yes. So every time that the variable or this property is false, meaning this is not yet archived, we show archive button instead. But if it's archive and we want to unarchive this, we show the text as unarchived instead. Then add some few stylings. This only for the purpose of small indentation. That's why we use inline styling. Then we're gonna add an event listener for this. This will be a click since this is not a submit type. This is just for toggling yes or no data, archive and unarchived. Every time this is click, we're gonna call an arrow function of toggle. This gonna toggle archive. Later on, we create this wherein this accepts a email.id. This is email.id is the one that we have here. Every email props inside this. So email ID, and we're gonna check. We're gonna point this archive. Since we want the toggle archive to be changed, meaning if the present archive boolean is false, we want to trigger this toggle archive to be true. Meaning every time we access this function, we need to inverse or make the present boolean as opposite. Meaning if this is archive as false, we want to enter into our parameter true. So when this is evaluated in the function toggle id then true, this will execute. But the next time this is click again or toggled, this becomes false. So that's why this is the logic behind our parameters. And once we have that, let's load our mailbox and just return directly into our inbox. Every time we archive, we just go back to our default index page. And last part, everything that we created dynamically in this UI, remember we need to append it to our parent element so that this will be seen by our browser. This archive btn encloses everything of the created logic so far. Once we have that, this toggle archive button we're gonna create below, right? So below or right below our the last part of our inbox.js, we're gonna create this toggle archive wherein this accepts an id, the id of the email. Then this accepts the boolean data. We can call this anything is archive or archive, but every boolean must be named as variable wherein you have the ability to say or yes or has been archived, or right now we should just call this should. So automatic, once you see the name of this variable, this answers the question true or false only. But based on what do you prefer naming convention, you should go. This is just my uh, design decision. After this, we're gonna create a fetch and close this into a try catch. Why? Because this is a fetch. Every fetch email is an asynchronous type of request, wherein this error should be catched. You just need to show this like basic error. So what happened? This is an archive error. What type of error? Just show what's inside that variable that we catch. Then we're gonna go back to our try catch. Our try and fetch emails. And this should be a string. No, this is an ID because in our URLs, this is the one. Remember in our views.py, our email, where's that? Our email checks for an archive scenario here. Archive, remember? So it's the one that we're gonna access, and email is accessed by going to this URL of emails, then ID. So we're gonna go back and call for our ID. Then once we have that, we're gonna enclose this into an object. But first, this fetch must be an await fetch. Since we enclose this into a try, let's contain this into a variable. We're gonna call response since we're gonna parse it into a JSON data later on. Then what are we gonna do inside here is to name the parameters inside, or the objects inside this, into a put method. Since we're just updating, this is not a post request, this is just a put. We're in the body is we're gonna JSON stringify into a archive as should archive. No, where you there you go, should archive. Then once we have that, we're gonna check if the response is okay. If the response is not okay, meaning it's not successful, something went wrong, it will be redirected into our error handling. But if it is successful, it will proceed later on below. But if it's not successful, we should our JSON data to be processed. And since this is not successful, we're gonna console.log this result, or whatever happened, why this failed. We're just gonna show it to our browser and tell the devs this what went wrong, why this was error or produce an error. So since this is an await, the function should be an async. Now we're gonna good to go. Let's just check if this works. Let's go retry this. Go into, there is an archive. Our logic is incorrect. Let's reverse. This must show archive, and this should be archive. Am I right? Okay, so we're gonna archive this subject 15 data. So what happened? Have we archived this? So it is archived. We're not resetting the inner HTML. It's still here. Yeah, it's still here. We're gonna remove that. Also, number 15, okay? Number 15 is already removed here in our inbox. Okay, we're good to go. Let's try again. Number 7. For our number 7, when we archive this, what's going to happen? Okay, it's removed. A new inbox has been rendered, and our archive shows 15 and 7. When we proceed to this number 7 and unarchive this one, this should go back to our inbox. So let's see if this works. So for 22 and test email, this does not show directly if it's successful. But once we go back to our archive, there's no number 7 email here. But when we go to our inbox, now this go back. So we have two small errors to fix. Our dynamic dynamically rendered HTML should not show this compose compose part. And also when we toggle between yes or no archive, it should show the latest. I don't know why do we need to hard refresh. I don't know why we do need to hard refresh this one. Here, archive, this shows here when it should be not. The 7 we already archived. Yeah, we always need to hard refresh. Maybe the old cache data is still in here, but we're gonna solve that two minor issues. So our first minor error that we should check is wherein when you click this archive button, the inner HTML still in here. Okay, so we're gonna remove this part. This is a bug. This is taken care of by going to our inbox.html. We created this email view wherein we throw everything to this parent div, all of our details that we dynamically entered. Meaning, once we access the load mailbox, this taken care of. Where is our load mailbox? We just need to reset our inner HTML. Load mailbox. Here. Document. Once we have that, we reset emails view, compose view, email view. We reset our inner HTML into this. We're gonna check this one if this is good to go. Go to our archive, let's unarchive one. Right now, this is handled. All the dynamically entered rendering is now resolved. This is good. We fixed this bug. So our second problem when our archive and unarchive button toggling works, but the UI only updates after hard refresh, of course, because we expect our inbox to change when we update our backend through put requests. But this does not mean our backend is updated. We need to automatically see the details that has been updated. We must still manually refetch our updated mailbox data. So what happened is the UI that is showing, it still shows the old cache DOM and it does not refresh the state of our UI. So we don't expect here, in simple terms, our backend update does not mean that our UI is gonna be automatically be updated. We must manually re-render our UI once again. So every time we re-render our UI, we trigger our load mailbox. So our load mailbox must be, this is the one. So I think this is good to go, but since this is an fetch put request which is in a async await version, we just need to put this as await, right? Because toggle archive is an async, meaning this function takes for the DOM to load, and once the DOM fully loaded, it proceeds to process more JavaScript data. So when we load mailbox, this function we call this, we need to explicitly say that this is an await function, meaning if there's anything that you need to process JavaScript and so on, you are processing API requests, just go process that other things, and once you upload once you are finished with that, execute this version of mine, this code. Let's try if this one fixes the problem. Let's retry. It shows here an error of uncaught syntax error. Await is valid only inside async functions. Oh, this means I forgot, since we're asking this as an await, our function here, our in case our arrow function must be declared async. Also, if we're gonna wait for our load mailbox to execute, we need first to finish our toggle archive, meaning these two things that we're gonna execute. Yes, async, then await. Let's gonna try this one now. Let's see if once we archive this one, the use case must show these two rows. Then this number 4 gonna be put inside this archive together with 15 and 7. Let's try 4, then click archive. So this now has been re-rendered. This is good. Now in our archive number 4 is added. So once we try again another version, unarchive this number 15 subject. 7 and 4 must be shown as re-render for our archive. Since every time we unarchive, we go back to our aha. So inbox and archive must be the one that is gonna be reloaded every time we go. Okay, that's a third issue that we have. Let's go back to our archive. Once we unarchive this 15, 7.4 must be the one that retains as re-render. But since my code unarchive redirects to our index page, which is inbox, I think inbox is gonna one that gonna be reload. Unarchive, let's go. This go back to our archive and 7.4. Okay. Minor third bug is in inbox or archive, this the one should be re-rendered, not always the inbox. Okay. This should be not always inbox. This should be mailbox, depending on the mailbox. Except send mailbox. Let's try this again and we run 15. Let's archive 15. Then the two rows re-rendered. In our archive, let's go 15.7.4. Let's try 7. Unarchive 7. So remaining must be 15 and 4 because when we finish this unarchiving toggling button, 15 and 4 must be the one rendered in our archive. So we're still in archive view. Let's try 7 unarchive. Now this shows 15 and 4. Let's go. We solved every issue so far and our archiving system is now good to go. Thanks.